Alright guys, so now we're going to look at comparing the advantages and the disadvantages of using ethanol as a fuel source. Now, what we're actually doing is we're comparing it to octane. And as every time we do a comparison of disadvantages, advantages, or two different products, we will use a table because it makes life much simpler. And in this case, we're actually comparing ethanol, which is this bad boy down here, versus octane, and that's this one. And octane's petroleum, gasoline, etc. So let's look at some disadvantages first. So ethanol has a lower heat of combustion, and this means less energy per mole, or per gram, or per litre. So you get less energy for it, and it's quite a bit. It's about a fifth. So here's your ethanol right here. Okay, that's the one that we're looking for. We're comparing, and it is 1,020 kilojoules per mole, whereas octane gets us a whopping 5,470 kilojoules per mole. That's an energy-packed molecule. It also requires very large amounts of arable land. Now, this has several problems: deforestation, fertilizer runoff, soil erosion, and salinity of the soil. Now, if you've ever seen anywhere where they're mining, you'll notice that it's not or drilling for oil, it's not a small enterprise, but it doesn't use quite as much as we're talking about in farmland here. It's expensive comparatively at the moment, until there is a push made for this to be the case. It is very expensive, and this is for two reasons. One, octane, drill it out of the ground, dig a hole, suck it up, there you go. However, we've also got the aspect of this has been the main fuel for so long now, so we need to make engine modifications, and that's expensive. So it's expensive to change to ethanol as a pure fuel. It's too low. This number up here is way too low for ethanol to be the pure fuel source with current engines. And there's also environmental problems. Waste products of fermentation. There's a lot of cellulose. There's going to be left, like a lot of dried up, pulped up mess of wood. However, and this is to be 100% fair, a lot less than octane. So we've painted a pretty dark and sad picture. But let's have a look at the advantages. Ethanol burns much cleaner in air. Much cleaner in air. You don't get any soot or carbon monoxide. Okay, that's this one here. Now, carbon monoxide, remember, is super duper toxic. It gets into, it blocks up hemoglobin in the cells, in the blood cells, and stops you from being able to transport oxygen around your body. Let's have a look at the reaction. Now, we're chemists, so every time we say something is true, we need to proffer evidence for it being true. And the main one we're going to use, particularly in this case, is a couple of equations. Okay, so yeah, ethanol burns cleaner. Here we go. You burn it in oxygen, 3 moles of oxygen for every mole of this, and you'll get 2 moles of carbon dioxide and 3 moles of water. Now, these are not environmentally perfect by any stretch, but they're better than the combination we get. Now, there's actually a third equation there as well, which we're not going to have today, which is what happens when you get just carbon, and that's soot. So here we see sometimes some of the reactions you'll get, 2 of these will use 17 moles of oxygen, it's octane, to make 16 moles of carbon monoxide, as well as soot, as well as carbon in there too. And over here we'll get 2 going with 25 moles of oxygen to give you 16 moles of carbon dioxide. So there's that. Okay, so it doesn't burn as cleanly, and that's really important. We also get to reduce CO2 emissions if we're using ethanol. For every 2 moles of carbon dioxide, you get 2 moles of carbon dioxide for every mole of ethanol. Okay, see up here, here's your ethanol, and you've got 2 of those. Alright, whereas with octane, you get 8 moles of carbon dioxide per mole of octane. So for example, there's 2 here, so there's 16. So 16 divided by 2 equals 8. Okay, so for every 1 mole of this, you're going to get 2 moles of carbon dioxide. But for every 1 mole of this, you're going to get 8 moles of carbon dioxide, and that's not ideal. It's a renewable resource. that's a bonus. Also, if we use a renewable resource to get our CO2 emissions, so stuff like sugarcane or corn, if we use this, then essentially the CO2 emissions will be reduced even further, because as you grow those things, you'll suck a lot of the CO2 out of the air. Yeah, and that's it. Those are the advantages and disadvantages. Make a decision. Tell me what you like. See you later.